So as you know, if you've watched this channel for any extent of time, I own a Model A Ford, and that Ford is too loud for my liking. I drive with earplugs exclusively, and that humming is just getting onto my nerves like nobody's business. And so I've searched for any opportunity to quiet the car down by making softer rubber mounts for the engine, having the entire engine balanced wherever it could be balanced, cushioning all sorts of things in rubber, replacing old worn out rubbers, dampening sheet metal, and so on and so forth. Sadly, only with minimal changes. And the last thing on my list is actually the exhaust. Because I have come to know that my exhaust isn't the original type. It's rather a pretty cheap reproduction. Cheap in that it's not only costless, but it's also not built in the way that it originally was. Originally you would have a set of tubes with holes in them, and then you would have baffles in between, which would block off one section of the tubing, make the exhaust flow through the holes into the next tube, and then out of that tube and into the next tube, creating sort of a shockwave braking effect. And the cheap repros, they basically just have one baffle in the front and one baffle in the rear with a few holes in them, and they really do nothing except for restrict the flow, but they don't really muffle the sound. Plus, the entire big, now useless muffler tube is actually acting like a resonance chamber. You notice that when you knock onto it. And I'm hoping to be able to dampen that a little bit. Now hold your horses and stop typing. I know that these can be had at Aries for the proper Ford specifications, but number one, we've already got 3/4 of an exhaust there, so why not play with that a little? Plus, to buy means to surrender. Online I luckily found a couple of pictures from the original Ford drawings, which show all the dimensions roughly, so I could make a CAD model and then put my own innards into the already existing muffler. The principle here is pretty simple. Rather than have one shockwave coming from each cylinder and go through the muffler, you split it up. You take a piece of tubing and then drill a lot of holes into it, and as the shockwave travels through that, it goes through first hole, second hole, third hole, fourth hole, and instead of going blam, it goes fup, 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 fup. That's sort of like they use in dynamite mining. They don't do one big blam, but they do several small explosions, offset them by just a few milliseconds, and that's already enough to, while there is still a lot of force behind it, it's breaking down that explosion from like an earthquake to just a sound which gets dispersed over a few hundred meters. So that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. Replicate the inner design, and then also clad the inside of the muffler tube with some, I don't know yet, steel wool, glass wool, something like that, in order to cushion the ringing effect of the muffler tube. And I'm hoping it's not only going to be quieter towards the outside, but it's also going to be quieter on the inside, because now you don't have this huge resonance chamber ringing about, but instead being dampened. Here we go! Now we've got a bunch of Swiss cheese. I've decided to cut this tube once more again, because then I can adopt the principle of having a shoulder on one end and a bore on the other. Slide the two together and put the cap in between, and then weld everything pinching the cap into place. That saves me from having to, somehow box this thing into here and then maybe drill a couple of small holes around and then try and weld it from the outside. This, I think, is just way more fail-safe. So now we can continue by making the sheet metal parts.
Come out wherever you are. I know you're not very far. How I wish you'd hurry, 'cause I'm inclined to worry. These arms of mine are open, you'll appear. Where are you, dear? Come out wherever you are. Come out from under that star. Yes, and incidentally, mentally, I'm not up to par. So come out, wherever you are.
Alright, I think that'll be about as close as I'll be able to get it. It's pretty round, it's not too centered, but we'll probably find a way around that. And now I'll let this cool off, of course. And then we can weld it all together. After I found the right parameters, my welds started looking really, really good. No, they did not. But then again, who the hell cares what the welds on the inside of your muffler look like? Well, I do, so I went to the grinder and polished them off a little. Nice and shiny. That's what the inside of an exhaust has to look like. Yes. So here's how it's going to go down. This is the engine exhaust side and this is the output rear of the car side. It's all going to get slid into the muffler tube and the exhaust is going to come in here, and since there's baffle 1 right in where that weld is, it's going to go out these holes here, and since there's a tube around it, it's going to go into here. Now you will notice that the spacing between these holes is different to the spacing here, it's different to the spacing in here, and that's different to the spacing here. So all different kind of frequencies and speeds are probably going to get, eliminated, undercut, all sorts of harmonics are going to get destroyed in here. It's going to travel into here and then back out here because there is baffle number 2 restricting the flow straight through. It's going to go and then of course back in here and then be nice and quiet out there without any restriction, because the square area of all these little holes here combined is a lot more than the area that's just made through the simple tubing which the gases initially flow through. Richard, I hope you're watching this, because I don't want to be the only one who gets this reference. So I've got this weird crossover between a locomotive, a pulse jet and a submarine out of the car. It's actually one of those thankful jobs which just requires removing the part you need to remove and not the whole lot of the rest of the car. And I've already identified one more rattling sound. There's something loose in there, so we can eliminate that. And now I'm going to inspect this with the endoscope, see if this is actually a cheap repro muffler and not one of the expensive kind, because then I would make a whole lot of work cutting this apart for nothing. And then I'm going to systematically cut it apart, because I need as many measurements of this thing before I put it back together in order to make sure that this will fit under the car. As you can see, the pipe in the front and the pipe in the rear, they're not parallel, but they're at an angle, and I need to copy that angle in order to have this sit straight later on. So here it is all chopped to bits. No real surprises here. The noise, the rattling, was caused by not one but two gland rings, which I think I dropped in there while remaking my exhaust manifold gasket. Here is a peek inside the quote-unquote muffler tube. I hope you can see something in there, because my flashlight gave up the ghost.
Hello!
But yeah, there's basically one baffle with holes on this end and then one baffle on the other side, which I've already tried to pound out because I thought it was just a press fit, but it turns out that these dimples here, they're actually spot welds where they put them in place, so I'm going to have to drill those out as well. I don't want to cut this seam here yet, because I want the round cylindrical shape to see where my homemade baffle is going to, fit itself, because we've only got like from here to right here where this can fit. Otherwise it won't work properly and shut off the flow as intended. So here is what muffled the sound earlier on. You can see it's not going to do much other than restrict flow. So now they're going to go in the bin, and I'm going to see where this fits and do a little bit of calculation, how far this tube fits in here and then how far that fits in there, and so on and so forth. So I've put the baffle in the proper place where I wanted to sit, and inserting this in here until the baffle meets up this trumpet, and that's right here. And now the camera isn't able to pick it up. I'm just going to take a depth gauge in here and measure how far in this sits from the outside. And this is about 5 millimeters below the cutoff surface. Now when I measure how much the bottom end or the rear end of the exhaust is protruding inwards, I'm measuring 45 millimeters. It's a good thing I'm lazy because I didn't really want to chuck this up in the lathe once again. And with a little bit of persuasion with the hammer, I managed to seat this baffle right where it belongs. So, no mods needed.
I've got eyes and I can see. You've been stepping out on me. What a surprise. I'm wise. No, you can't alibi. Try as you may. That look in your eyes gives you away. Oh, you got yourself in a jam. You're gonna lose your honey lamb, 'cause you can't pull the wool over my eyes.
37 welding rods. Good I didn't pay for them. The spot welds I did were once again so hideous that I had to grind them off in order to be able to look at them. Now, that uncovered that I hadn't actually closed most of the holes. They were just covered in slag, but not in metal. So I had to do all that again, and I hear you, this could have probably been a lot quicker and prettier job with a Mig-Mac welding torch. And the fun thing is that I have actually got an appointment tomorrow with a guy to weld this up with his Mig-Mac torch. But that's the way I am, I guess. Once I got started, I thought I would only quickly cut this apart and maybe spot weld one or two pieces so that I can put this all together without a jig at his place. Well, once I got going, I couldn't be stopped. So now it's middle of the night, and tomorrow I can install this, and hopefully through heat and expansion and contraction, not more holes will be appearing.
Remember, fellers, great things happen when you cut corners.
And hopefully, of course, this will now muffle the sound and not ring around. Yeah. Good night.
See an elephant fly. Oh, oh.
Man, who ever heard of an elephant flying?
When I think
about it. Ho, 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 ho. I have to laugh.
Sure enough, I've really got a laugh.
I saw a peanut stand, heard a rubber band. I saw a needle that winked its eye. Well, I think I will have seen everything when I see an elephant fly.
So here's what I mean, the sharpness is gone. It sounds like it's dulled down through a cushion or something. It's no more bang bang, it's more poop poop. And up until say 30 miles an hour, you can hear that inside the cab as well. Right now on the inside, the only thing you would notice is the vibrations of the car, not the ignitions. So in summary, we've got a significant decrease in outside noise from this thing. It's incredible, really. It sounds a lot more dampened, like through a piece of wool or something. The high-pitched ringing is gone completely, and you even notice that a little bit on the inside. Especially when idling, it's almost hard to tell with other cars passing around whether the engine is running or not. You can only notice it from the shaking of the car. And well, at top speeds you heard it from the outside, the angry grunting noise is gone. Whether you like that sound or not, well, that depends on you, of course. I kinda liked it, but then again I also like, a quiet car. Which, sadly, this didn't do. The main noise is still coming from the engine itself, and the vibrations, you can't just cancel them out. So, it's gotten a little bit more quiet, I granted that. There was some kind of a humming noise coming right from the bottom, from the direction of the muffler too. So it did indeed change something, and well, especially at low RPM, it's really decreased the noise level a lot. It was a fun project. I really enjoyed cutting that thing apart and slapping some other tubes in there. And it's impressive to me that, by making a lot more holes into a piece of pipe than the couple holes that were there before, it actually decreases the noise more. I had hoped for a little bit of top-end improvement. I can't really say that has happened, being less back pressure and all. Maybe there is a decrease in fuel consumption. If that's the case, then I'll let you know in a future mechanics log. Until then, thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye!